What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp, and today we're going to be going over my super clean custom GMMK Pro keyboard build. As you probably saw last week when it released, I did my full review of both the black and white version, but mainly in that review, I just showed off the black GMMK Pro. But most of the comments were about my white version. So I figured for this video, we'll go through it all, talk about the build, the switches, the plate, the keycaps, all that which completes my super clean GMMK Pro. So if you haven't already seen the actual review, I highly recommend doing so. Some of this footage you will have seen in that video if you did check it out, but there's a lot more to fully unpack here. So with the GMMK Pro coming as a bare bones kit, which means it's, pretty much fully assembled out of the box, you just need to buy your own switches and keycaps. That's what really lets you start to customize and fully complete the look of your build. So stock out of the box, this did come with an aluminum plate inside, but I wanted to swap that out and go with their alternative polycarbonate plate they also sell for $19.99. As of right now, most of their accessories aren't available to the public yet. Those are sort of reserved for the people who did already reserve their units. But yes, for this white version, I did want to go acrylic for the plate for a few reasons, and we'll get into that. So disassembly, while pretty tedious, is rather straightforward. On the bottom of the keyboard, there are 8 screws to undo the top and bottom of the chassis. You then have 2 center screws and posts in the middle of the sandwich, which is the PCB and the aluminum plate, which you're gonna be swapping out. And then keeping that all together even more are 12 additional screws. So once all removed, we can just easily swap plates with the polycarbonate one. Now inside the keyboard, there's a layer of dampening foam underneath the PCB, but there's an additional layer of foam between the plate and the PCB as well. And I'm gonna opt not to use that for the acrylic plate, mainly because it's gonna help the RGB diffusion shine even brighter, but also, even though it's a gasket mount, it's pretty stiff as it is. So I do want to give it more give, if you will. Another thing I did was, since there are, like I showed you, those 12 screws keeping the PCB and plate together, instead of putting back all 12, I left every other screw out, and I did not include those 2 center screws. That's just gonna give a softer typing experience. So once that's all fully built back up, our next step is switches. And this is where it gets interesting. So a few months ago, I think at this point, on drop, I saw these super nice looking, completely see-through polycarbonate switches called Everglide Aqua King switches. They're a linear switch and they come in 3 different weights with 55, 62, and 67 grams. I picked up a pack of 90 in the 62 gram variant. But these Everglide Aqua Kings are super interesting. So like I said, they're linear and it's pretty much your standard travel distance, 4 millimeters total. They actuate at 2 millimeters. Inside you have a gold alloy leaf and a stainless steel spring, which is also gold plated. So with it being completely polycarbonate and see-through, having those gold accents with the metallics on the inside shine through looks killer. And I'll admit, the looks is the reason why I actually bought them in the first place, but I'm super glad I did because these instantly became my #1 favorite switch. So these do come factory lubed, and typically you'd want to, manually lube your own switches. That way you know the consistency and how much you're putting on each one. A lot of times the problem with factory lube switches is inconsistency. But with these, they were just all across the board, super consistent and extremely buttery smooth. I'm talking, these feel identical to already lubed Gateron ink switches that I've tried. These just stock out of the box, right on par with that, and I was just blown away about how satisfyingly smooth and good these feel. But then what also impressed me even further was the stability of the switch. There was practically no wobble to the stem, and this is something you really don't see too often. A lot of times, the stem's gonna have a fair bit of play, if you will, but these, it was stiff, which is, it is just an insane switch. I don't know how they pulled it off. I assume it's because of that polycarbonate material. So you don't really get much wobble, but it's still just super consistent and smooth every time you actuate a key. And then obviously with the RGB, it just looks crazy. You combine that with the polycarbonate plate inside, the full RGB to the white PCB, and it glows super bright and vivid, but gets diffused nice and evenly. It is just an insane color show on this keyboard pretty much, now shining through those Aqua King switches. But the keycaps is our next component to the build, and that's really what got everybody talking. Everyone was asking, what are those keycaps on that white build? I picked these up from KBD fans. They're the EPBT Kuro Shiro. It's a really nice and clean looking black on white kit with Japanese modifiers and sublegends. People are often familiar with GMK Striker. You can kind of think of it like that, but those are a nice deep blue, this a black and white variant. And I just figured with that white, or pretty much silver version of the GMMK Pro, it looks really nice when it's fully built up and complete. There's also some additional keys inside the box. Obviously, I didn't include them all because it's a 75% build here. But a few of the extra keys are black, like the arrow keys, enter key, escape key, there's a few others, but I think having that as a nice sort of contrast to the all-white build looks really nice in the end. And since on the GMMK Pro we have the rotary knob, which can easily be swapped out, they have the silver, gold, and black available. The stock silver one looked really nice, but I figured, again, just to complement and add some contrast, I'd add the black one here. Then topping it all off, we have the custom coiled Aviator cable. This is another accessory that Glorious offers. They make and sell these in 4 different colors. Again, not available right now to the public, but they will be very soon for just 50 bucks. So I wanted to add that to this as well. At first, I tried it out with the black coil cable, but the white definitely looked much cleaner in the end, so I went with that. And I covered it in the review, so I'm not gonna talk about their software, their Glorious Core, but just real quick, their RGB effects that they have both on board and in the software, I believe there is like 18 or close to 20, tons of different effects, a bunch of variation, and they're all just so smooth, which is what I think is really impressive here. Because a lot of times, you can have RGB on a board, but it'll either be, choppy or the effects just won't look really nice in the end. But here, that's not the case. Everything super smooth and very vibrant, which I've probably said like 10 times by now, right? But you get the idea, and you can see firsthand for yourself. And then just like that, the super clean custom GMMK Pro build is complete. And I usually have the RGB lights inside pretty much just shining, white, so it looks cleaner in the end. But I just wanted to show off right now and show you guys the full, RGB and all the effects it's capable of, and just how crazy it looks with that acrylic plate and those polycarbonate Everglide switches. So speaking of which, yes, now we'll do a sound test. You could hear how this sounds in all its glory with those crazy switches from Everglide, the Aqua Kings. So what do you think? How does that sound? It's very hard to put into words, a feeling of how smooth these Aqua King switches actually are in person. So hopefully that's kind of portrayed through the sound test. But I think it's also definitely helped out by the fact that, like I said before, I went every other screw instead of all 12, and I left out those center 2 posts. But with the polycarbonate plate, it feels crazy. And yeah, like I said, I also don't have that center layer of foam between the PCB and the plate. So altogether, I am just absolutely loving this keyboard, loving the final result with those keycaps, the switches, and of course, the final product that we have from Glorious with their GMMK Pro Barebones kit. Very impressed, very happy with it. Hope you guys dig it. And like I said, check out my review if you haven't already of the full GMMK Pro keyboard. You can find out a lot more there. And as the accessories start to come available and stuff, I'll drop all the links down below for the keycaps, the switches, all that, so you can check it out. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed my custom super clean GMMK Pro keyboard. If you did, give this video a big thumbs up to show your support. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at randomfrankp. And lastly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day.